Welcome, everybody. What a night and what a week in American politics, and really what a month it has been. 1 month ago, how different did this presidential race look? And it is incredible what we have seen in the last 4 to 5 weeks, culminating last night on the fourth of 4 nights at the Democratic National Convention with Kamala Harris, the current vice president, accepting the nomination to represent the Democratic Party on the presidential ticket in November. This happened in Chicago, and it was quite a moment.
On behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
What was excellent about Kamala Harris's speech, aside from the fact that at 40 minutes, it felt like just the right duration, long enough to lay out not only her positive vision for the country, but also to remind the audience what the alternative is. And it's pretty weird, and it's pretty authoritarian, and it's pretty disgusting. The duration was not too long and not too short, and delivered in an excellent tone, without condescending, without being nasty, for lack of a better term. And it's not a term I normally use. Trump uses it all the time. I think it actually applies here. Without being nasty with regard to how it might come off to people who already support you versus those who don't. Because at the end of the day, the people in the room, like Gavin Newsom here and Nancy Pelosi clapping, they already support Kamala Harris. The question is, what did it do to those who were maybe ambivalent or unsure? Kamala Harris laid out she will not cozy up to the tyrants and dictators, drawing a distinction between her outlook on global affairs and Donald Trump's, who is increasingly enamored with these authoritarian dictators.
And know this, I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend our forces and our interests against Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un, who are rooting for Trump, Because, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself. And as president, I will never waver in defense of America's security and ideals, because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs.
What's brilliant about that little segment is that it's a criticism of Trump, a serious one, an important one, based along one of the most, are we friends with Western democracies, or are we friends with dictators to the extent you can even be friends with dictators rather than they just are using you and you don't even notice it? She outlines that, but she also explains her view and the vision that she has. And it's one that is delivered clearly and succinctly and very hard to get too angry with. Now, Trump did get angry with it. We'll get to that later. The other aspect of the speech that I think was very good was that she spoke directly to the people whose political views may vary. And she said, and it's a line that's been used before, I would be the president for everybody, whether you vote for me or not. But the context and the framing and the language and the delivery, it just all kind of worked.
And let me say, I know there are people of various political views watching tonight. And I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me. to put country above party and self, to hold sacred America's fundamental principles, from the rule of law to free and fair elections to the peaceful transfer of power.
And that's another great example of here are the values I believe in, here are the principles I believe in, and by mentioning one of the principles she believes in to be the peaceful transfer of power, it's an implicit criticism of the other side. It's an implicit criticism of what Donald Trump did and tried to do after the 2020 election and in January of 2021. Really well done. And the writing was very good, but Kamala Harris has also improved significantly as a public speaker. And it all came together in a way that, based on the focus groups we saw done afterwards, was effective. And we'll get to that in a moment. There was also no shortage of more direct criticism of what the MAGA Republican Trumpist right is currently offering. And Kamala Harris did not mince words. She said they're crazy. They're out of their mind.
Forced to carry a pregnancy to term. This is what's happening in our country because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds. And one must ask, why exactly is it that they don't trust women? Well, we trust women.
So listen, my take overall is excellent speech, probably Kamala Harris's best speech. Is she at the level right now of Michelle Obama in terms of the ability to craft the narrative and the highs and the lows of the speech and the arc? No, but okay, it's still very good. Is this what Barack Obama was able to do earlier this week? No, but who cares, right? The point is it good enough to convey the alternative that is facing voters in November? I believe that it was, and I'll say more about that. Here is Kamala Harris wrapping up the speech last night and wrapping up the convention with this.
So let's get out there. Let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
All right, the ratings much better than for the RNC for the entire week. We know that Republicans and Trump were worried about that, but most importantly, we all are voting for her, right? I'm not sitting here going, well, let's see. She wants to raise the child tax credit. On the other hand, Trump would create mass deportation camps. I don't know. I'm undecided. That's not me. That's not any of us, I don't think. There's a real question, though, as to what about the undecided voters? Anecdotally, here's a focus group that CNN did immediately after the speech with undecided Pennsylvania voters. And what you will see is that I believe it's 7 of the 8 made a decision on the basis of the speech. And 6 of the 8 said, I'm going from undecided to now voting for Kamala Harris.
About that. Right. But what I want to ask all of you all together at this point, like I said, none of you were ready to make a commitment to any candidate in November. Please raise your hand right now if you're now ready to make a commitment after today.
So 7
Wow.
hands go up.
I'm just kind of surprised by it. We haven't rehearsed this. I'm going to make that very clear. They will attest to this. 7 of you are now ready. Scott?
Yes, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Andy?
Yeah, Kamala Harris, yes.
Donna?
Yes, I'm voting for her also.
Sean? Sean?
Yes, Kamala.
Sabrina?
Kamala.
Patrick?
Kamala.
Brian?
Trump.
Trump? And finally, Lindsay.
Still probably not voting.
So probably you don't like either of them.
Nope.
Okay, so not voting after what we have seen as the dramatically different choices. Let's not even get into that. But anecdotally, Pennsylvania, 8 voters who went into Kamala Harris's speech undecided, 75% of them, 6 out of 8, came out saying, based on the speech, I have changed my status from undecided to voting for Kamala Harris. Everything is pointing in the right direction. When we went into this convention, Kamala Harris was leading on average nationally by 1.4. Let's wait 10 days and see where the numbers land. We know one guy who did not like Kamala Harris's speech. I want to talk about that next. Many in the audience know my first language is Spanish. I learned English later when I moved to the United States. And these days, I do a fair amount of traveling, and I always make an effort to learn some of the new language before I get to the country. I've tried a bunch of methods for this. I keep coming back to the app Babbel, because with Babbel, you really can start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. Instead of paying hundreds of dollars for classes or fooling yourself with language apps that are basically just simple games, Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. All of Babbel's tools are approachable. They are rooted in real-life situations. They're delivered with conversation-based teaching. You might have seen on my Instagram, I was recently in France. Babbel got me ready last minute. I got to France. I was ready to order food, ask for directions, talk to people at stores and hotels without having to use my phone to translate. There are studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others that continue to prove that Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is like a semester of that language at college. With over 10 million subscriptions sold, Babbel is real language learning for real conversations. Here's a special limited time deal for my audience. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for my audience at babbel.com/Pacman. Rules and restrictions may apply. The link is in the description.